When we were envisioning this journey of Rainco going global, that is where the crisis unfolded. It put us in a position as a Sri Lankan organization to become a strong contender for the Chinese counterparts in the industry. Taking this opportunity we saw, we will use it to rebrand Sri Lanka and also to rebrand our organization. Economic crisis, for us, we've always seen it as a very positive thing. Yes, at the time it was unfolding, was not easy to digest. However, what happened after that as a consequences was it always had come as a blessing in disguise. Because what we have done as an organization, I think we've made use of the crisis for us to probably take the journey towards our vision. It has helped us rather than the problems that we have faced, or rather than slowing us down. So Reposition Sri Lanka is an idea that we built on, particularly looking at Rainco and its brand proposition. Because we've always thought Sri Lanka had a huge opportunity to take the stage on the global stage. If you look at Rainco had been quite successful. We have created a legacy in Sri Lanka. We always wanted to see how do we take this success story to the global stage. And when we were envisioning this journey of Rainco going global, that is where the crisis unfolded. And it was a global crisis before it became a Sri Lankan crisis. So the global crisis opened up a lot of doors for us. It opened up opportunity for us, where it put us in a position as a Sri Lankan organization to become a strong contender for the Chinese counterparts in the industry. So we thought, taking this lesson, taking this opportunity we saw, we will use it to rebrand Sri Lanka and also to rebrand our organization. That is where we launched a campaign saying, "World is your stage," where we want to communicate the message through the brand of Rainco that the opportunity is opening up, not really closing down. So the economic crisis unfolded since 2019. Now we've had 4 years on a row. Like every year we thought was the toughest and the hardest challenge, but the next year it ended up being the hardest or the toughest. So from 2019 onwards, 4 years on a row, we've had multiple challenges. And obviously it started with the Easter attacks in 2019, then 2020, the COVID, then 2021, the following COVID wave, and 2022, the economic crisis. Now, if you look at all these years, it has impacted us in terms of revenue, certainly. It has impacted us in terms of decline of volume because the market activity was low. The consumption had an impact. People were not moving around. If you look at most of our categories are pretty much outdoor categories. We eat an umbrella or a rainwear. So this had an issue with our capacity, and particularly in terms of volumes. When we have low volumes, it will also impact our manufacturing process, our bargaining power with our suppliers because volume going down, and of course managing the capacity. So this had huge issues in our profitability and in terms of managing the scale that which we were managing before. What we did, in fact, to mitigate these circumstances is that we looked at the opportunity and we have to realign the business processes. We have to realign the business models to keep it going. But in the short term, we had to go through a lot of issues, particularly in profitability, particularly in economies of scale and managing the larger operations. So what we're looking at is the pricing, the proposition, and what do we offer to the market going forward. So we have revamped and reinvented all our propositions that we're offering to our stakeholders. We have looked at the entire business model. We have looked at the entire value chain end to end and understood where the inefficiencies are, where are the areas that which we can focus to improve the profitability and to improve the value proposition we are offering to the market. What we have realized is before the crisis, the expectation of the consumer, the preferences of the consumers versus post-crisis, it has completely changed. The way consumers make decision has completely changed. So we used to look at the brand proposition, we used to look at the loyalty factor of consumers, which was very high. Post-crisis, consumers have become more rationalized in their decision-making process. They look for value before they decide to pay a price. So we went back in the value chain to understand how we can give more value to our consumers, how we can offer more value to our stakeholders, such as the distributors, the retailers, and also to our suppliers. This is where we understood that we can reinvent the way we do business. So we shifted from pretty much a credit-heavy retail model to a cash-based model, which has given an advantage for retailers to become more profitable, which has given an advantage for us to reduce inefficiencies around the business, such as working capital requirements. Because when we cut down the credit to the market, which means the retailers also get used to selling it on low credit models, which will help the entire value chain, which will help all our stakeholders. On the back end of the organization, we've looked at the same. We've understood where are our inefficiencies in terms of production, in terms of sourcing materials, and we've looked at alternatives as well. We used to depend heavily on China, like many other organizations did pre-crisis. Post-crisis, we have reduced the risk and we've looked at alternative sourcing hubs. Particularly, we're moving a lot towards close to home destinations for supply, such as India, Bangladesh, which has helped us in revaluing or reimagining the way we do business, particularly with our suppliers. So these are the two extremes in terms of where the front end as well as the back end, we've looked at reinventing the whole business process. Then comes to the internal organizations, the operations also we have reimagined with the way we do things. We have resized the organization. We have redeployed our employees into functions and special segments where we can add more value. We have outsourced some of our function, which we thought we don't add value. So we've looked at the operation and we said, let's identify our core proposition and we'll focus all our organizational strength towards it. Let's identify the non-value adding activities and outsource those functions. So by doing this, we brought in focus, we brought in a lot of value addition, and as a result, the internal operations became much more profitable and efficient. And that's how we approached. So we looked at the front end, the stakeholders, we looked at the back end of the organization, and we looked at the operations to bring in more value, cut out inefficiencies, and focus on what we should be focusing as our core value proposition. Well, the culture is pretty much stemming down from the leadership itself. If you look at the chairman and his way of managing right from the inception as an organization, then comes down to the directors who had been continuing his way forward. And it comes down to the organizational leadership. We've been getting support and encouragement right from the top. And for me as a CEO, it's been very easy when I have such a support and inspiration coming from the top. And for me to lead my team and to pass it down and to create the same vibe and energy across the organization. We have a very strong sense of psychological safety within the organization that has carried through over the last couple of years. We have a culture where we support each other in tough times. We've come together in doing so much of initiative. We have taken so many new initiatives to share our expertise, to share our strengths when we have to go through tough times in the market. We have a lot of examples where the teams came together as cross-functional teams. We looked at new projects, new development in products, new initiatives that has saved a lot of money for us. Also, it has helped us to take a lot of value back to the society. Our vision of enriching people's life, our vision of building a global organization has always stayed close to our people. which gave them a larger than life purpose to come together to get through the tough times so that we see the opportunity beyond these challenging times. That is how we were able to reposition and create a culture internally before we took those external challenges head on. So we looked at the Sri Lanka as a completely new market. As we know, everything have changed. All our assumptions have been challenged. So we are considering Sri Lanka as a new market. We've been in the market for almost 45 years. But what we have gone through, the transformation and the changes it had made in our consumers, our stakeholders, everyone around us is very profound. So therefore, we are now looking back at what are those changes and how do we realign our businesses. And in terms of product, in terms of pricing, in terms of our distribution strategy, including the way we communicate about our brands. We are becoming more value-centric. We are giving more reasons for consumers to patronize us and to embrace us. So our future, we are looking at building a global brand with a Sri Lankan brand identity, because our hearts are always firmly attached to Sri Lanka. And this is driven or inspired by our purpose of doing business, which is to enrich people's lives. For all those people who touch us or where we go and touch their lives. So this is driven by our core values of goodness, ownership, partnership, and drive. Globally, we are opening up a lot of opportunities. We have realized that we have a huge opportunity in the global market. And we, of course, have a lot of strength and capacity to position ourselves as a Sri Lanka brand. We have a huge acceptance in the global front as a sustainable sourcing destination. I mean, if you take Sri Lanka as a whole, and we want to focus on this element and take our products to the world in a more sustainable manner.